Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So a couple of months ago there was a trend, women in male fields, and that made its rounds across TikTok especially, and it was basically just women flipping the script on the behaviour and double standards women experience in male dominated spaces and also just men in general. And I stumbled across another trend which was children in parent fields. I just thought this was really interesting because every time we do some sort of role reversal thing online, it's obviously usually just women and men, boys and girls. So this was interesting to me because it was children and parent dynamics, and we've only just entered this new era where we now have especially adult children talking about their dynamics with their parents. And to put it simply, the children parent fields is just basically flipping the roles on adult or parent behaviour towards children. So there are some variations of the children parent field, so there will be a few different hashtags, but they're all under the same umbrella of the hashtag. What the hell's a hashtag? So let's just dive into the content and talk about it. My son asked me why he couldn't wear shorts in his own house, and I told him it's inappropriate, your sisters can see your legs. That is insane. That is fucked up, honestly. I just don't get how people view their daughters like that, to be like, yeah, you need to cover up because there's like a male relative in the house. And especially if it's like a sibling, that's even weirder. Now, I wasn't brought up like this personally, but I have recently seen people online say that they would be told to cover a shoulder, to not wear a skirt, to not wear a dress even, because an uncle's coming round, because the grandfather's coming round. And I'm like, it's weird because it's either they're admitting that they know these male family members are perverted, or they just think the simple existence of a girl is too much for any male, and especially family members. And it's always on the girl. It's never on the male family member. It's sick, and I've never heard that, yes, sons are told the same thing, like you're not allowed to wear shorts. You're not allowed to not wear your top off in the summer. I've never heard it. Even with baby girls, people say about baby girls like, oh, you can't leave her around in a nappy because there's a male family member. What about the sons? It probably goes through me and I just don't get how people say it. It's worse when it is mothers who say it, but this one does say daughter in father fields, which, I mean, no matter what, it's just disgusting whichever family member says it. So yeah, this one is a lot more gendered, and it comes down to how we view girls and women in society, and how we view their bodies, and just simple existence. I just can't for the life of me. It's just so sad that we've reached this point where so much sexism runs into families where you don't even want your daughter to be having her legs out, or even wearing a swimming costume, or having like a strappy top on where the shoulders are exposed, or when they're like going through puberty and obviously their bodies are maturing and you kind of make them cover up their chest. It's like, what are we saying? It's like basically saying to boys, like, you guys just live without being able to control yourselves. It's girls who have to control themselves around you. We're viewing boys' bodies as bodies. Why do we not see it the same as girls? And it's like, if it's going to make a male family member feel uncomfortable or behave differently, they need to go. Kick them out. Stop putting it on the daughter. Stop making the daughter feel like they have to be the one to cover up and hide when it's just the boy or the man in the family. It's not the girl. Have you ever heard or seen of a boy, a son, being told, hey, when your sister's wearing shorts, don't look at her weird. Don't look at her knees and her legs in a weird way. Have you ever heard that? It's only ever to the girl, and it confuses the girl because to the girl, her legs are just legs. Because why are we telling people that, especially kids in the family? It doesn't make any sense because you're putting it on them to start thinking that way in a sense. It's really awful family dynamics, and I just can't stand people who always put the weight of things onto the girls in the family. I can tell you right now, I am not raising my daughter like that in the slightest. Ugh, like, no, it's why would I ever make her feel like her body is the issue when there's a boy around? It's disgusting. So let's look at some of the comments on that video. Someone has commented saying, my stepdad told me I needed to cover up more so him and my bros wouldn't look at me. Sorry, what? Ew. I don't know who they mean by this, but they said, someone tried saying he didn't mean it sexually. Yeah, okay. How can it not mean sexually? Especially in this dynamic of it being said to a girl. Within that comment, there are people replying, talking about Islamic rules and the rules you have to follow with clothes. But then it gets a bit confusing because one person says that because that person is her stepdad and not blood related, you should cover full. So in my head, I'm just like, what? I mean, first of all, where's everyone getting all this from that person who's commented? They've not really necessarily said that they're religious themselves. So it's like, where are these people getting it from that they have to cover? It's funny because she actually does go on to say, I don't wear hijabs anyway because I'm not Muslim. This person has said, while he's not blood, he's taken that spot of a dad, so he should act like a dad and not a pervert. Nah, someone's commented, I feel like your stepdad is a nice man. The stepdad's mentioning himself and the girl's brothers. How does that make him a nice man? I'm sorry, but that's vile. Absolutely vile. So the original commenter has said, he's not. He stared at my chest, hit me, almost broke my brother's arm on purpose, yelled and cheated and manipulated my mum, and a lot more. He needs to get out of the family. The person who's replied, oh, he's not nice anymore, lost his approval of nice. What the fuck is going on? That's so funny. I mean, just the comment alone, the original comment, is enough for you to say he's not a nice man. You don't need to. Someone else has said, I don't wear a bra in my house because my mum told me that it's uncomfortable. I have an older brother. I honestly don't understand how there are female family members in a house and we are telling them to change something about the way that they want to be comfortable and what they want to wear because of male family members. The problem is with the male family members. Another comment says, my dad always tells me to cover up when I'm wearing pyjama pants and a shorter tank top, but he can walk around in boxers. It's the double standards are just insane, honestly. Oh, the OP said haram and the person goes, I'm Christian. How can a girl existing just wearing her pyjama pants and a tank top to be comfy in mean anything but the fact that she's comfortable? Called my dad just to tell him that the phone works both ways and talk about myself for an hour. Daughter in dad fields. Why do so many parents just not understand that it's still up to them to maintain a relationship with their child and to put the effort in more than the child, because they are the ones who raised that child. They're the one who set the tone for this. So it's like, why would you not be the one to continue to lead in that relationship? So let's read the comments on this video. Calls every 6 months or on your birthday and hangs up in record time of 4 minutes, but you get the impression he didn't listen to anything you said anyways. Jeez. Someone else has said, matched my dad's energy a few years ago and he's wondering what's happened. That's so funny. That's what I just don't get. I swear parents, like adults who become parents, are just so oblivious to the double standard. Like, they've set the tone. I don't think a lot of parents understand and realise that they are the ones setting the tone in the relationship between a parent and especially an adult child. Like, how you have a relationship with your children when they become adults is how you wanted to set the tone and set it up when they were children. Yes, it looks completely different when they're adults, but if you want them to start like making effort or being a little bit more involved in an adult way, maybe you should have set that tone. Maybe you should have made them feel wanted. Maybe you should have made them feel like anything they have to say to you is going to be met with fun or empathy or understanding or like care. Because more times than not, like OP, who's made this video, has said that the father goes on to talk about themselves for an hour. Like, they're saying, why are you not calling? And then when they do call, it's like, you just talk about yourself anyway. So why? I was diagnosed with an incurable illness 2 years ago and my dad has never asked me how I'm doing since then. But he expects me to have sympathy for him because he's lonely after my mum got dementia. That's awful. Not the child. Not the child, the dad. That's disgusting. I actually don't understand how some parents are like this, where their child will be struggling quite bad, and especially if it's like a new illness in their life, and they just don't bother checking in, like, at all. And even if they do check in, it's very superficial. It's always on the surface. It's never like rooted deeply into caring. And it's annoying because people make out that the children are just being vain and selfish and me. But really, as an adult child especially, you would love to know that your parents are still very heavily involved and care about you, because you are still a child to them. It's not like you suddenly become an adult and now you no longer need to be cared by your parents. I believe that it's always the parents who have to carry the relationship. Of course, if the child's been absolutely awful, then yes, it's the child's fault. But more times than not, it's just usually the parent is not being a good parent and not putting in effort to maintain a relationship. They've had a child's whole life to build a relationship that is going to set the scene and blueprints for an adult relationship they're going to have with their children. And they just never bothered. They just thought raising a kid was it. It's never on the children. I'm getting sick of like adults and especially parents making out that when their children become adults, that it's down to the children now. No. Why have kids if you're never going to continue to parent throughout their whole life? It makes no sense. Do we all have the same dad? Genuinely, I think so. I love comments like that. I stopped being the one to always make the call, and he hasn't called me or his grandkids in 2 years. His loss. Damn, that is his loss, honestly. I love it when adult children are setting boundaries to be like, if you're not going to put any effort in, you are not going to even have any effort with your grandchildren. It's annoying because like when you become an adult child, it always is made out to be as if it's your fault and up to you to maintain this type of relationship. And when grandchildren are involved, it's always down to the grandparents to set that relationship up with the grandchildren. Mine doesn't call, even though I told him the phone works both ways. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Even if he would call, I'm not telling him anything because he doesn't deserve to know. Damn. That is, I feel like a lot of people feel like that with their parents. It's just so frustrating that there's so many parents out there who just don't even realise that even if they do get phone calls from their children, half of the time they're not even bothering to tell them stuff anyway, because you're never going to be able to hold a conversation with them without some form of judgment and some form of negative comments and putting them down and making them feel like they're reverting back to being an actual young child as if they don't deserve to have a voice. Someone has said, see, I just blocked mine and everything, so he doesn't even get to call me once a year now. That's so funny. I love that they put the little heart face emoji. Oof, someone said, mine called out of the blue once and was talking about some back issue he had for like 20 minutes. And I was like, yeah, I just got out of the hospital for a life-threatening condition. Lol. Oh gosh, what a time to be alive that we're all sharing all this trauma online. And it's like, yeah, most of us could probably relate to this, which isn't a good thing. When my mum asked me for help with her phone, but I remember how she used to help me with my homework. No. Oh no, okay. That is dark humour. That is really dark humour. Right, so I mean, there you go. Then we've got the dark humour side to this children in parent fields trend. That is a good Uno reverse. I'm not gonna lie, that is a really good Uno reverse. Right, let's read the comments on this one, because as soon as there's dark humour like this, I just know it's going to be like top tier comments. Wipe that crime face, we will need it for Face ID. What? Can you imagine someone saying that to you, like, wipe that crime face, we'll need it for Face ID? That is insane. If Margaret has 10 apps open, oh my goodness, imagine. When parents are so mean to their child doing their homework and trying their best for their homework, imagine whacking out an Uno on them and being like, okay, well, if Margaret has 10 apps open and you just treat them like you're so angry at them for just not understanding simple stuff to do with phones. Screenshot right now before I give you some to cry about. Oh, okay. Now sign out and sign back in so I can see you do it. See, you wouldn't be having these problems if you paid attention. People need to start replying like this to parents and adults who just don't get it, because it's like, the way that some adults treat kids when they're doing their homework, it's unhinged. It's unhinged. Like, give them a break, please. Why are you getting so angry for too? Oh, you're tired? We're going to sit here all damn night till you set up Siri. These comments are amazing. You can forget about watching Family Feud or the news until you remember that password. Oh my goodness. I bet your friend Beverly knows how to do it. Stop using one finger to type. Do it like I taught you. These are brilliant. This is the type of humour I like, because some people are so creative with stuff. So here we go. We've got a realistic comment here that kind of brings you down to earth a little bit. Someone said your relationship with your adult children is a report card of how you treat them as kids, and I've never seen something so accurate. Couldn't say it better myself. That is something I learned a couple of years ago, and it's stuck with me for so long, because it's like, You cannot foster a relationship with your adult children without having set up the blueprint when they were children. It is what it is. Like, why teach them manners? Why teach them how to be a civilized person and then mistreat them in a lot of areas of their childhood, especially when it comes to something so small like homework, and then expect your child when they're an adult to behave in a way that you still want them to behave when they've now grown up with lots of different experiences in life, or you'd hope so anyway, and then you expect them to still grovel at your feet and just continue to revert back into their childhood ways. It doesn't make any sense. This is the type of content I live for. It's adults calling out parent behaviour, because there is no way you have children and you treat them in such unhinged ways and then think it's okay. And then if someone, especially their children, treated them the exact same way in stuff that they don't understand, it's like they would have a go at them still, and they'll still be like, you're wrong in doing this. And it's like, no, because you do it yourself. Like, this is how you set the tone. Why get annoyed if someone treated you the exact same way? It's just... I just love this comment section. It's so good. It's funny because I'm laughing knowing literally 90% of all these comments is just people going through their own dark humour of their own trauma. It's like, it's it's sad but true. Okay, we're going to watch one more video because I'm dying in this heat that we have in the UK right now. When my parents try to complain about something and I say, you shouldn't be upset because you have food on the table and a roof over your head. That one's brilliant. That one is brilliant. I think this is like the classic one that everyone always brings up. It's crazy because I honestly never experienced this from my parents ever. They never once used food on the table, roof over your head as some way to make me feel bad or wrong in something I've said or done. So I would say this is definitely one of the weirdest ones. Of course, I'm very aware that a lot of parents say this to their children, which is disgusting. Like, could you imagine a child saying that to the parents? That'd be so funny. I would generally give that child a high five if I witnessed that in real life and was like, I just overheard it somewhere. I'd be like, you deserve a high five, because that is the type of energy that parents are putting out. And it's like, just imagine if a child said that to you. Just imagine. It's so funny. Right, so let's read the comments on this video. Oh, okay, we're going in heavy here with the first comment. Except my mother has never been able to keep food on the table and a roof over her head. I had to do that. That is damn, jeez. That really does humble you a little bit, because we're all laughing about this, but there are some kids out there whose parents just genuinely could not keep a roof or food together to help their children live. Nah, but when they hit me with, and who worked for that? Damn. Some of these are just insane. When my parents disagree with a decision I made that has a negative impact on them, so I say, you have no respect for me. God, you are so disrespectful. My father said that all the time and used that as an excuse to claim he was a good parent, not realising that's not what makes a parent. It's so annoying because a lot of the times when parents use this excuse and this argument, it's because they were told it. And as a child, logically, yeah, your parents are giving you a roof over your head and food, or you should hope so anyway. But that's the bare minimum. They have to. Like, as a child, nobody's telling you that they have to do that. Parents have to do that. It's like, nobody's telling these kids, unfortunately, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the parents have to do that. And it's annoying because I think a lot of these parents' brains are just turned off in the sense that they don't know that they're not making any sense. There's no consciousness in it. And it's like really frustrating because they were brought up like this. And this is not me giving them excuse in the slightest. I can't stand parents like this. But they've not been given the tools to think a little bit more critically. They've also just not been given the tools to not speak like that in the first place to a child, because it just doesn't make any sense. And it's really frustrating because as a parent and an adult, they get two things to be in charge and hold power over a child, which is being a parent and being an adult. And it's a double whammy for that child, and that child has no room. They have no experience or thought process or skills to even think outside of what they mean by that. And when a child does question something like that, they still get told that they're just being like disrespectful and rude and wrong. And it's like, how? Just let them think. let them exercise their critical thinking skills. Let them just exercise having a voice. It's so annoying because I just honestly just think about how many kids are just told this. You've got no critical thoughts in that head. You've got no brain cells. It's just this thing you're regurgitating that you've probably been told as yourself as a child, and you've never learned anything outside of it. And now we've got people on the internet showing us exactly how stupid you sound. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. We are entering a new era of parent-child relationships, and I'm here for it, because for the most part we are showing parents, or adults anyway, how stupid a lot of people sound when they are raising children, and they need to be respecting children a lot more than that what they all do think they are. But yeah, just minimalizing and trying to dismiss your child's problems by saying you've got a roof over your head and food on the table is like, that's what they're supposed to have. Like, is your child not meant to ever have problems just because they've got a roof over their head and food on the table? Like, anytime you've come back from work and stressed about it, anytime you're stressed about bills, anytime you've just had a bad day or anything like that, an inconvenience in your life, you've got a roof over your head and food on the table. And it's it's just so bad, because why say that to a child anyway? Like, they're supposed to be learning how to build emotional resilience and how to navigate emotional regulation and just experiences in life, especially ones that don't convenient them, and especially to navigate, you know, stressful things or upsetting things, whether you think it's rational or not what the child's going through. Why would you ever say that to them? Because they're supposed to have a roof over their head and food on the table. So why would you make it out as if every problem they could possibly have is irrelevant, because at least they've got food and at least they've got a roof over their head? So I think we can all agree that while this content is super funny, it's also very eye-opening and deserves serious conversations. And there's me laughing. I can't keep a serious face right now. I think I'm mostly laughing because it's time. It is finally time for adults to be held accountable, and particularly parents. It has become a joke how people hold up being a parent or just even an adult as this instant immune existence to how you treat other people, like especially children, how you treat them so badly and you get away with it. You have this weird power dynamic and power trip to be like, well, I can treat you like this and everything I've said is logical and rational. But if a child says anything, you somehow deem them to be wrong, disrespectful and irrational, and, you know, they can't complain about anything because they've got this and that. And it's like, what? What thought process has led you there, if not childhood trauma? Like, outside of your childhood trauma, which you clearly have never addressed, what has led you to still think what you're saying makes any logical sense? And especially when you're meant to be raising a child who's supposed to become a very well-rounded, respectful, empathetic person and an adult. It's so sad, because these children grow up into adults and they just feel lost. They're just like, why does none of this make any sense with how I was raised? Because how they were raised, they thought that was normal. And then when they become an adult, it's like, oh, none of that was normal. And now all I can do is laugh about it because it's that sad. So I would go as far to say that this is actually the first time in history where adults, or especially adult children, are highlighting and talking about the contradictions of adult behaviour and parent behaviour and how they treat children. Because it's never happened. If anything, children have always been told to be seen and not heard. It's only in the past 50 years, that's probably me being very generous, but very, very, very recently, where we've decided, oh, you know what? Children are actually people. Go figure that. For so long, the status quo conditioned us to believe that parents or adults in general should never be questioned. And that has led us, everybody in history, to get in some form of trouble. It doesn't seem like that, but that is exactly what the status quo is. It's some sort of system that's being upheld, and you are so conditioned into it, you don't think there is even a status quo or some sort of conditioning going on. You're so far gone in it that you think it's now normal. And when it comes to the treatment of children, it's so bad, because those children become adults, and those adults become very dysregulated, and they become so unhinged, and they continue that cycle that if you step out of it, suddenly you're now viewed as weak, you are viewed as gentle, too soft. And you start again viewing and wanting to put children back into this place of they need to be taught a lesson. They need to be treated very horribly. They need to be treated with hardship. And it's so degrading and sad, because children are people. It genuinely just baffles me, because I'm like, you do realise like those children have to become adults. And when you think you're fine after being treated so horribly, and someone's come forward and said, hey, you can treat someone, especially a child, differently and still get good outcomes from them, and you still try and argue it, it's like, you really need help. you really need help. And it's like, I can only feel sorry for you at that point, because it's only now that we're realizing how unfair and how contradictory the behavior is, because you cannot treat children one way and then just think that's okay by the time they become adults, because it breeds so much trauma, and it breeds so much like toxic behavior that we have normalized. And then we wonder why so many people have bad mental health, and we have to undo and unlearn so much just for us to feel like we are now human and that we should have been treated a different way. And I mean, I just love trends like this where they do it in a tongue-in-cheek type way and in a way that makes you laugh, because it's not gonna always be serious, and it's good to see it in a comedic type way where you kind of go, yeah, that's actually, it's true in exactly what they're saying, but it's also funny, because it is funny if you really can just take a step out of how parents and adults treat children. It is quite funny, because you just there like, do you have any brain cells in there? Like, do you actually think critically when you are talking to children, or are you just going off this like pilot mode where you're just not even thinking? You're talking but you're not thinking. And it's like, why were children always told to be seen and not heard, and yet somehow adults think they should be heard and not thinking through what they're saying to a child? And then you've got to think like how we've had so many generations of people being brought up by very dysregulated adults, and adults who did not deserve to raise children because they just weren't thinking. And throughout history, we never had any research or respect into children anyway, so like, I'm not necessarily blaming that, but in the past 50 odd years, there's no excuse. There's so much research out there, so much research. And it's like, I know some people still will look at research and be like, well, I'm going to parent how I seem fit. And I'm like, yeah, going off your own childhood experience. You're parenting off the fact that you were a child and you were parented by an adult, and you think that that's enough for you to parent your own children. It just doesn't make any sense, because we're talking about a child here. We're talking about a developing brain. That's like getting a puppy and being like, well, there's loads of research and behavioural things in this, but I'm just going to raise this puppy how I see fit. It just does. Why do we hold up standards for puppies and cats and just any animal, but we don't seem to hold the same standard for children? It just baffles me, because this is people we're talking about. This is human beings. It just baffles me, because these children grow into adults and they become insufferable. A lot of them become so insufferable, and then they become the butt of the joke online, because they're the type of adults and parents we're talking about when we're saying there's double standards in the way that parents treat children. So thank you for watching today's video. I am in so much pain. I am bloated so much. It is so painful. So if you did enjoy today's video, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and especially if you can think of any hypocritical behaviour that adults display towards or in front of children, please keep it respectful as well in the comments. And if you did enjoy today's video, please don't forget to give it a like, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more content like this from me.